Hello everyone, welcome back. How is your journey so far? If you remember, in the last video lecture, we discussed about role and importance of typography. And most importantly, we try to understand the difference between typography, lettering and calligraphy. We also try to understand and then see different uses of typography and how it helps in communicating a message very powerfully and at the same time very effectively. Now, in this lecture, I will take you through some of the example through history just to make you more awareness about the typography and its evolution across the timeline. So, if you look at the life in 14th century, it is more of there is illiteracy, no books, and most of the time the communication was through oral medium, and lot of the things in the society was controlled by the religious bodies or churches, you can say, and many times the communication or storytelling happens through uh, this nomad people who basically roam around and tell the story. So it was more of a verbal affair compared to reading things on paper through books, because the technology was not so advanced. If you look into this timeline where publishing a book was really a very tedious task. So if you have to publish a book or write a book, it takes more than a year or 6 months, because you have to prepare the material, and then a monk scribe generally he will sit and write the whole manuscript or whole book, so and manually, and there was no medium to reproduce it, though there are certain mediums in terms of replicating designs, for example wood block, but it was not so popular. Popular means it was not so feasible and efficient to use it to mass produce any book or any article. And just imagine before that, when the base was skin, so uh, it again takes lot of time. For example, you have to rear sheep and goats for the skin, and then it will take more than 6 months, right, or a year or so, and then you have to process the skin. So it is a very lengthy and long affair. But in 1450, uh, Gutenberg invented movable typeface, and this revolutionized the whole industry, and then changed the whole process of printmaking, and especially printing through types, because in this method so that they came up with a movable typeface. So individual letters were first designed, and then it was made, and then you can arrange those letters and create a composition which can be praised across on a paper, and then you can get the impression, or basically this pressing techniques was used where the impression was taken on the paper. So this way the whole printing technology got changed, and it become very feasible, because if you want to decompose or compose another design, you can use same letter again, because letters are separate individual characters, and that can be assembles and then can be uh, placed in a certain composition. This is a printing press image where you will see that there are it is a laborious process, and then it during the beginning early time it requires lot of manpower. So people, for example, there is a typesetter, there is a person who is just putting ink, and then there is a person who is just taking out the letters from uh, the uppercase and lowercase, whatever the tracks, and then there will be one proofreader. So it is not like one person, which is, I mean, in the current scenario, if if you'll see, printing has become very efficient. You have a printer in your home, you compose anything in digital platform and then print it. So efficient that you don't even need a person, right? So that means there is a significant evolution which has happened across the timeline. This is considered to be one of the first book printed using mobile typeface, and this is a Gutenberg's Bible, and this become a kind of a base for the further development in typography. But at the same time, if you look into this world, China and other places where block printing was quite common, and then people were still using these blocks to print manuscript and literature. So from that time, if you move to Victorian era, which is around 1830 to 1900, now if you look at the letters, the whole treatment to the letter has drastically changed. Right? Now you can see there is a shadow, drop shadow, lot of intense decoration in the letters, right? And this is just an advertisement for toilet soap. So you can imagine what kind of work and then craftsmanship goes into designing just one poster. But mostly it is highlighted and then popular because of this decorative lettering, detailed and decorative lettering. This is another example of Coca-Cola ad, which is the early ad, and you will see the kind of treatment given to the poster and then the letters is altogether very interesting. Now if you just look at the paper in the bottom, there also you will see this cursive style writing. So if you look at the history of Coca-Cola, it was introduced in 1886 as a medicine, but it quickly gained dominance in the market of soft drink. And this rise was due to the aggressive marketing, including advertisement. So when it comes to the advertisement, then you have to have a efficient method and process, and then as a medium as well. And there the typography played a very significant role to create all those iconic logo, and then along with that crafting catchy taglines and then other illustrations. So here if you look at the screen, few more examples were decorative lettering. So this is more or less from the Victorian time, where decoration was quite common, and then people love to buy those things where it is highly decorated. After this, this wood type become quite popular, which came in 1820, where you will see the letters. So earlier, when Gutenberg invented movable typeface, the letters were created in metals. But one of the major challenges faced by from this metal typeface is in bigger size. When you press it, it breaks and it creates problem. So to address this, lot of designer and the people from during that period, they come up with this wooden typeface, where because the technique was to press and then get the impression. So to create a bigger size, because this was the also time when this industrial revolution was quite significant, and then a lot of products were coming out, and then to advertise those products you have to create posters and banner, and because printing images was quite difficult, so then you have to create the whole content using letters. And if you have to use letter, then again at the same time you have to create hierarchy, variety, and then create interest within the composition, right? So to do this, because in metal typeface the size limitation was there, so to bring this variation, this wood type become quite efficient and popular. If you look at their significant slab serif font, and then all those things were experimented during this time. Also, this Durius Well, they are credited as a founder of wood type industry in US, and from there it became quite popular. So you will find different ornamentation types. For example, on the left you will see the letters where you will find different kind of treatment has been given to letters to make it stand out and at the same time create a lot of impact, right? And towards your right side you will find this is wood type which has been used. This is a work by Ellen, who often use type in his work to create stunning designs. After this, this beautiful era, La Belle Opaque, which is from 1870 to 1914. Another thing you should remember that these periods are connected and they are overlapping. So something was happening in one part of the world, and then at the same time some other moment were going in the another part, and accordingly those influences and moment got reflected into letters and patterns and then graphic design as well. So if you look at this period, La Belle Opaque, or this beautiful era in French, refers to a period of time in European history and characterized by full of optimism, excitement, okay, peace and prosperity, especially in Western Europe. During this time, there was a general feeling of culture, artistic flourishing, technological advancement, and social progress. So everything has kind of resulted into a very detailed, bold, and decorative typography as well. You will find, for example, in this example, this is an advertisement of a Columbia bicycle. Now you just look at the composition, you will find lot of text and a lot of information has been placed on the corner, and then the title has been highlighted, and there are different kind of font which has been used, right? So the variation has been created through fonts of different sizes. So this is how the poster were designed during that time. If you look at Jules Serret posters, again the integration of typography with the illustration have become quite popular. You will see exaggerated artificial stage lighting as well, lot of shadow and emphasis in letters, and very energetic approach. Now from La Belle Opaque, or the beautiful era, you move to Art Nouveau, which is in between 1880 to 1914. Now everything is inspired during this period, inspired by the nature. So you will find letters which has lot of inspiration from the organic form which is there in the nature, and this was the time when people were kind of they said, okay, we should shift towards nature, and then we should adopt organic form rather than working very mechanical. And this was kind of a movement against the industrial revolution and the practices which happened during that time. So this is one example from a magazine, art magazine, Juzen, which was published in 1900. And similar example you will see on multiple other magazines and magazine cover design and then spread design. So figurative or expressive typography also become quite popular during this time. If you look at this magazine cover, right? So now this PAN, which is kind of the part of the flower, and then in the bottom you see 1895. So the letters has been incorporated within the illustration or the composition. So this is how the changes started happening. So earlier when letterpress came and then movable typefaces were invented, it was basically to do with the body text. So to print books which is text heavy. but gradually it shifted towards the expressive typography and display typography, where typography become a very significant element of any design to communicate a very powerful message and then create a very long lasting impact on the viewers. Now after that there is art and craft movement, which is around 1880 to 1910. So this movement refers to a design and reform movement that emerges in late 19th century, and it originated as a reaction to the positive negative impact of industrialization, right? So when there was a lot of when industrialization happened, and then a lot of things started happening in a very mechanical way. So then there was a group who came up with this idea that no, we have to shift towards craftsmanship and then detailing of the product. So then so whole thing came because of negative impact of industrialization and mass production on craftsmanship and design as well. So this art and craft movement aimed to promote the value of traditional craftsmanship, the use of natural material, and integration of art into everyday life. So quite a radical change from the mindset during the industrial revolution, where things become mechanical and then you have to mass produce things. So similar kind of product were quite common, and then so all these things happen. And if you look at the examples from this period, art and craft, the letters become very decorative. And then if you look at the treatment, the way it has been given to this, it's amazing. So much of detailing. So initials, and then this capital letter which is coming starting of the each paragraph, or you just look at the spread altogether, it has become very significant in terms of very detailed treatment to the artwork or the product. So there was a press, Kelmscott Press, founded by William Morris in 1981, and this press played a very significant role in the art and craft movement and was known for its dedication to producing high quality books, and the books with meticulous attention to design and craftsmanship, and as well as typography. So you will find there are a lot of decorative letters, mostly printed using wood blocks, were created, and lot of detailing were given to each letters. So floral organic was combined with the other designs to make it more evident and prominent. Then next timeline is poster style or placard seal, which is 1905 to 1915. Now during this period, you just saw this example where the letters become very decorative and then detailed, whether it is in miniature size or the bigger size. Now this timeline, big and bold typography become very popular. So you will see now typography is taking more than 60%, 50% of the space in poster. So this is what was brought by the poster style time. So idea was less is more. A strong vivid color you will see, abstract and flat pattern you will see. So rejection of anything which is decorative. So from art and craft, from this decorative, it again shifted towards the very minimal and then minimal design approach, and towards the modern design and minimal poster as well. And this is very interesting example designed by Lucien Bernard. So you will see, just this is in right side you will see there is a example of the matchstick, right? And just two sticks and then bold lettering. So the idea was it should just, when you look at it, create a very loud impact on your face, and also the color is very vibrant. All right, so So they kind of rejected in Soviet Revolution. If you look at geometric become very evident, and decoration was fully avoided, and artists or the designers shifted towards functional aspect rather than aesthetics. So if you look at the letters which has been used in these posters, it has become very geometric and rectangular and without any decoration. Now, if you look at European avant-garde, which is 1909 to 1923, now typography become a painting and art. So again, so there are a lot of shift which is happening, right? Or maybe at the same time in different places, different changes are happening in terms of playing with the typography. So now the legibility and readability aspect is compromised, of course, but at the same time, they celebrated this expressive and dynamic quality of letters. So this is what European avant-garde brought in the evolution. Now, if you look at Dadaism, which was around 1915, so now the grunge and dynamic typography, and they changed altogether the perception of design. So a lot of expressive and dynamic design, the grunge letters, broken letters, and many times they broke the conventional method. Okay, so all the designers, they just, you will see a lot of juxtaposition which is happening with the background within the letter as well, right? So this is what Dadaism brought. Then if you go to the style, this which is 1970 to 1931, now simple and to the point become very common word. So stencil font, just look at this. So stencil font also came, and then simple sans serif font without decoration become part of the design. Now this is one font designed by Theo von Doesburg. Now if you look at the form, and so it is very geometrical and devoid of any ornamentations, and more or less it looks like very squarish as well. So their idea was we should not use ornamentation, just focus on functional aspect, and accordingly we should avoid the confusion and interpretation in a very ambiguous way. Okay, so their idea was if someone from across the world, if they are looking at it, they should decipher it in a similar way, right? So now coming to the Bauhaus, which is the period, a very significant period in graphic design history, or any design history. Okay, product, graphics, service, whatever you say. So Bauhaus came up with their own ideas and ideology, where they talked about minimal approach, and because Bauhaus was formed by the artist and designer from the different part of the country, having different kind of influences, this place has become a very interesting place in terms of nurturing innovation and bringing out design which is good for society, and then which has a universal approach. So now less become more, so you use minimal approach, and then ornamentation become corrupt and unnecessary. So they talked about form and function, form follow function, and then they also talked about this clean and clear design language. A new typography is proposed by John Thiessold. Again, this is from the Bauhaus ideology, where they talked about focus on functional aspects, reduction of letter to their essentials. So if you go back and then see Bauhaus timeline, they came up with the universal typeface, where they also came up with this idea that if the role of both capital and small letters are same, so why one should need both set of letters, right? We can just use small letters and then write and communicate the same message. So to this extreme they went, and then they advocated in terms of using minimal element in design. So it is more about universal design approach, where you create something which is getting accepted by everyone without any ambiguity. So if you look at the this thing in terms of layout, it has become very structure, and then you see grid system, proper hierarchy, and then everything arranged in a very in a proper grid. But interestingly, he rejected this idea of new typography when he moved to London. And from where it came, no one knows, but most probably the kind of experience he had in Germany and other places, most probably that led him to come up with this idea of rejecting this new typography, or the simple and minimal approach. Now there is a great age of poster, okay, which is from 1920 to 1939, and if you look at the examples from this time, Didot family, I mean the letters with high contrast become quite popular. So lot of Alexei Brodovich work, if you look, you will find that he has used this kind of characters on the font, where you see extreme contrast. Look at this Bazaar title, where you see a very extreme contrast between strokes, thin and thick strokes. So Alexei Brodovich is also known for bringing a lot of changes in typography, especially the figurative typography, where he experimented with the form. Okay, so this is one example. So playing with montage, mixing typography and photography, taking photograph as a reference point and then changing whole text into that shape. All this experimentation happened during his period. So this is what went into the if you look at whole development. If you go to 19th century, it was very text heavy, very flat, and around 1930s this Bauhaus and other phase came, and then things become very minimal and very to the point, very functional. Then later you will find changes happen in terms of experimentation. So things become little philosophical, lot of handwritten text, and then combination of handwritten and then the refined using typefaces. These things become quite popular during 50s. So this is a evolution now from 19 till 50s. If you look beyond 50s, Swiss typography again came. The style is again very minimal. Mathematical structure and grid system was followed, and they also preferred clarity and structure in the design. So you will find a proper grid the way we saw in new typography and other approaches. So like new typography, some of the work, if you look into Joseph Muller Bruckmann's work, so there is a proper hierarchy grid system. Here you can see there are 1 to 4 column grid, and then accordingly the whole everything has been arranged. Typography also become very dynamic and functional, and this is another work from Joseph Muller Bruckmann, which was done in 1955, and this dynamism was brought by arranging text and then other elements in a very dynamic fashion, okay, on an angle, not very stable horizontal orientation. So after this this counterculture came, which is known for its psychedelic effect, and it was quite popular in 1960s. So now again we talked about new typography, we talked about Swiss typography, we talked about Bauhaus, where the things were very minimal and to the point, and then everyone advocated about the grid system structure, legibility and readability and functional aspect of typography. But suddenly in 60s, this whole counterculture redefined the idea of uh, writing system and then typography in posters and as well as other places. So here you will see the letter has now become a part of the graphics, and it has been very so this is more or like art nouveau, right? So where it was again very organic, here again, and then this has also adopted a figurative typography where you create one part of the illustration using letters. So again, in this case, what is happening, the legibility and readability aspects has been compromised, but at the same time the whole poster become very powerful and attractive, and that was the idea of the artist or the designer, because they want to create a very powerful, impactful impression when someone is looking at it. And then the lot of hand-drawn typography become quite popular. So here as well you see a whole background is filled with typography, but in a very fluid and then very organic way. And another artist who is known for experimental typography is Stephen Segmeister. So if you look into his some of the work, the typography has taken different medium and then places, right? So sometime using body parts, sometime, so it has become very experimental, and people started using typography as a medium of expression. So not only the, because earlier the visuals were very important source for creating emotions and expression, and people hardly think of like using letters to create emotions, but these are the artists, and then for example, um so this Wes Wilson, or if you go back again, this Victor Moscoso, everyone brought this kind of a new approach to typography, and they made typography very functional and emotional aspect, where you look at it and then through visuals itself you get an idea of what is getting communicated. If you look at technology, right, it has also kind of played a very significant role in whole development of uh, in this field, in the field of typography and lettering art. And so for example, if you go back to the early time during Romans, so initial typefaces, this modern typefaces got inspired from the inscriptions on the stone, right? So they were almost similar fashion, they were adopted and then translated into typeface and fonts. So so you will find very minimal changes in the letter form which has happened here. Now later we just discuss about universal typeface, okay, which is done by Herbert Baer from the Bauhaus. So this is where they talked about the idea of having single small letters instead of having both capital and small letters, and at the same time the letter form become very geometrical. But later it again you will see a lot of geometrical approach in future. If you look at this font done by Paul Renner in 1927, it is very geometric, right? You look at letter O and letter S and E. So this kind of changes happen across the timeline, just to uh, just to reflect back on what is the need, and how what is the need of the project, and then what kind of font and typefaces can be used to communicate the intended message which is required in certain context. Now print versus web, if you look, now in print it was quite getting the refined edges was quite popular, and then you have a very refined letters design. But when suddenly web came, okay, digital technology came, the limitations came in terms of pixel. So earlier, just imagine, now we have millions pixels which can be achieved on the screen. But in earlier initial time it was very limited, 72 pixel or even more, just more than that. So then this designer faced a lot of challenges in terms of, so then the actual font cannot be designed on the digital screen, and this the pixel effect, pixel style was adopted just to suit the screen and then its requirement, right? And one of the famous name is Zuzana Lico, who is known for working on this digital screen font, right? So now you saw a lot of development across the history, and then, for example, if I have to summarize, we started with the early 14th century when there was no medium. Medium was there in terms of wood block, but after that, when this movable typeface got invented by Gutenberg, the whole process got very revolutionized, and then it became very efficient to print books in mass number, okay, in large number, and then circulated across the community. Then after that, you look at Victorian era, the letters were very decorative. Then you look at Art Nouveau, where the latest forms got inspired from the nature, it became very organic. Then you go to art and craft movement, where a lot of intricate detailing came into design, and then letters was also, all the initials got created in a very detailed, minute, miniature designs came in. Then further new typography came, where they said no, ornamentation is corrupt, we should not use ornamentation, letters should be very clean, flat, and then it should communicate, it should be easy to read and then understand. But after that, you will find a lot of changes happened, right? And then the Swiss typography again came. They also advocated about minimal approach and then clean typography. Then psychedelic came. In psychedelic, they said no, we should go back to the earlier approach. So that means a lot of changes happened, and you should remember that these changes happened because of some influence from the society and some influence from the different art movements which were going here and there, and that was built on the ideology. Okay, so we will stop here, and in next video lecture we will discuss about the letter anatomy and type classification, and this will help you out to understand the basic form of letters. So I hope you will remember this whole visual history, and we will meet in the next video with more information on typography and some basic information in terms of your understanding about letter and letter form. Till then, goodbye and see you soon.